actually didn't say anything about holding kids back or passing them on to the next grade despite its name. It was also replaced in 2015 with ESSA. And yes, No Child Left Behind and ESSA have differences. Retention policies, though, are left up to states and local school districts. Let me be clear, No Child Left Behind sucked ass. On paper, it was supposed to make schools more accountable by requiring standardized testing for grades 3 through 8 and once in high school, and then schools had to show adequate yearly progress based on those test scores. But the consequences were like nuts, and they didn't only punish schools, like funding cuts, staff replacements, or even school closures punish teachers and by extension students. So like if just one subgroup of students didn't meet the target, the whole school got labeled as failing. So schools started doing things like teaching to the test and prioritizing subjects that show up on standardized tests and leaving the others by the wayside. They were basically just making decisions to avoid being labeled as failing. But people thought No Child Left Behind meant that kids would be pushed to the next level no matter what, because obviously this was happening and that's the name that they chose. And also at the same time, there was this whole thing about social promotions. That is when students move to the next grade, even if they're not ready. But it wasn't like schools weren't allowed to hold students back. That started becoming a hardcore thing in like 2008 after No Child Left Behind technically expired and graduation rates were added to accountability measures. And this was especially a thing for high schools. And then once those graduation rates became accountability indicators, retention, remediation, or alternative timelines were just like things schools didn't want to do. And we see that still happening today, even though pushing kids through isn't explicitly in a law. It's about optics. And this is the chilling effect, and it's relevant to our discussions once again. And let's zoom out and look at the standardized testing companies themselves, because when No Child Left Behind passed, states suddenly had to give millions of tests, and private companies swooped in to design and sell them. And by the early 2010s, we were spending over $1.7 billion a year on just the testing part. These companies were sponsoring conferences, they were lobbying Congress, and they shaped public messaging around why standardized testing is essential. So basically, capitalism is how we ended up in a culture where standardized testing became the main measure of success. By 2011, the Obama administration started giving waivers to states saying you don't have to follow these parts of No Child Left Behind if you promise to do these other things we like instead. But it wasn't until 2015 that Congress finally passed the Every Student Succeeds Act, that's ESSA, and it kept the tests, but it gave a little more power back to the states. So states get to decide how to measure success, how to help struggling schools, and what these tests actually mean. But a lot of folks never really noticed the shift because the tests didn't go away, and the media didn't do the same kind of frenzy around ESSA that they did when No Child Left Behind came on the scene. So for many teachers and families, it still feels like the same system. And a lot of people don't even know that No Child Left Behind went away at all. And I totally get it. This is very confusing. I'm not saying No Child Left Behind was great. I'm not saying ESSA is unflawed. I'm just saying we should use the right name, and we should talk about the things that are the federal government's fault, that are the standardized testing company's fault, and that are the state and local government's fault. I just think that if we understand every piece of this, we can have more intelligent conversations and shape change better. And I mean, it sometimes feels like everybody got left behind.